We are less than a week out from the 23rd anniversary of the September 11th, 2001 terror attacks. We are sharing the stories of those who were there as we vow to never forget that day that changed America. Today I'm speaking with a retired New York City fireman, Billy Martin. He was at the North Tower when it collapsed, and he is still suffering from the health effects of whatever was in the dust that rose up as the towers fell. Mr. Martin, thank you so much for joining us today. I know this time of year can often bring back memories and things like that, so I appreciate you taking time to tell your story with us. I'd like to start in chronological order, if that's
My
okay
pleasure.
with you. Where were you on the morning
Absolutely.
of 9/11?
I was assigned to my firehouse in the South Bronx, Engine 83 on 138th Street.
And were you initially dispatched to the towers, or were you secondary once things started to develop more? What was that like?
Once the second plane hit is when we got dispatched. I had called my wife before that, and I said, don't wait up. We'll probably be used for manpower at some point. It was a pretty horrific fire, especially in the early going. And then when the second plane hit, that's when we got dispatched.
What was it like for you as you got on scene? I mean, I only know from video, so I can only imagine what you saw when you officially pulled up.
Right. Well, not having known that the South Tower had already collapsed, we knew that there was a lot of stuff going on. They had called it it's a 1060, which is a major issue in addition to a fire. So we knew something had gone bad. So when we pulled up, you could see that the Trade Center is burning all the way down from the Bronx. So we knew it was bad. And then when we pulled up and we were walking to the towers, to the North Tower anyway, we could see people jumping. We could see the devastation around it. And we knew we were in for a hellaciously long day.
So the South Tower had already collapsed by the time you got on scene. Is that correct?
That is correct.
When you went to the North Tower, were you hesitant that one was going to go as well?
Well, I'm fond of saying I'm a country bumpkin from upstate New York. I never expected either of them to collapse. So, and we didn't know what exactly had happened to the South Tower at that point. So we didn't know if it was a partial collapse, or the whole thing had come down. We didn't know. So not really. We were just looking for an assignment, and we were going to go in there and do what we do, and that's put out fire and save lives.
I know that you had a divine intervention that day, if that is the right term. What happened to you as you were making your way down to the site?
Well, firemen are notoriously poor listeners. So true to form, we just jumped on the rig and left. We figured we knew where we were going. The South Tower, the Twin Towers were on fire. So we just started going in that general direction. But as a paramilitary organization, we get orders to go to each fire, each incident. And nobody bothered to look at those orders particularly that morning, or we just missed it. We just assumed we were going somewhere else. So divine intervention had it that we were supposed to rendezvous with another set of companies at 35 Engine on 125th Street. So we got detoured to go back there halfway down to the Trade Center. So divine intervention won. If we had continued in, we probably would have been killed. And if we had gone to the firehouse initially and met up with the other companies, we all would have been down there, and maybe 40 other guys would have gotten killed as well. So our little detour probably saved 35 to 40 guys' lives, inadvertently, as I say, but still, divine intervention.
So you're at the North Tower. Did you go inside when it was a single tower?
No, we didn't get the opportunity to help out in that manner. We were encroaching on the North Tower. We were looking for, it was chaos because of the South Tower issue. We were looking for some command structure. A lot of those chiefs had gotten killed. So we were looking for an assignment, to tell us what floor to go to, what set of stairways to use, things of that nature. So we never got into the North Tower. We were about to go in it when it started to collapse. And that's when we ran.
I want to back up just a little bit. So you arrive on scene after the South Tower had collapsed. We often hear those alarms that ping when someone stops moving.
Yeah, the pass alarm. Yeah.
Yes. what was that like, stepping out and knowing, being inundated with that sound?
Well, we didn't hear it, until after the North Tower collapsed, and we went back in to see who we could help and help rescue. That's when we could hear some of those going off around the site, and knowing that we couldn't, and that's how we knew where to dig initially. But a lot of times it was just too deep and too late.
So you're at the base of the North. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in that vicinity, we did get two gentlemen, two firemen out from under a fire truck they had sought refuge under, but they had been crushed to death. And then we had another guy that we helped out of the Marriott. Somebody had taken him down in a bucket, and then we took him to an ambulance. But unfortunately, he was also deceased due to his crush injuries and burn injuries.
So when did you...
That's the only day, the whole day of 9/11, that we ever found whole bodies. And I was down there for months. It was only parts and pieces after that.
When you're at the base of the North Tower, did you hear a boom? When did you start to realize it was collapsing?
We were like I said, we were walking to it, and I just, somebody started to yell that it's collapsing or it's coming down. And I looked up at the antenna, and I said, how can this be? And then when the antenna started to collapse into the smoke, I realized, the fight or flight. So I grabbed my buddy Dave. I said, run. And the five of us just started running back up West Street at that point. But it really didn't hit me until I saw the antenna start to move and in a downward position, downward progress. And I realized it's time to go.
Obviously, a lot of first responders have dealt with issues because of the dust cloud. What are your health effects like because of whatever it is that you breathed in?
Well, I mean, fortunately, I'm in fairly good health even to this point. I just said, my wife and I were discussing it this morning. Like, I honestly did not, when I was 33 at the time, I did not expect to be here at 56. And I say that in all honesty. I didn't, just because we knew then that we were getting exposed to some nasty, nasty stuff. We've buried 360 something guys since 9/11, and 343 guys died then. I just kind of wait for the other shoe to drop, but fortunately I've been lucky. I mean, it was bad enough where they retired me medically, in 08. I couldn't be in a fire anymore. I couldn't be in an IDLH, is what they call it. I just couldn't be in that smoke condition anymore. It was just debilitating. So they put me out.
Does it feel like 23 years? And have you gone back to the site yourself?
It doesn't feel like 23 years to me. But you have to understand, guys like me, we live it every day. To some people, it's an annual event. To us, it's a daily event. Anything can trigger a memory, a smell, a taste. So we live it all the time. The fact that it's been 23 years is really unbelievable to me, because it seems still like it was just yesterday. And it could be yesterday to me because, again, it was. I think about it all the time. Think about guys we lost, friends I've lost, friends that are still sick. So, yeah, it's a long time, but it was in a blink of an eye. So it's a daily occurrence.
I've got just a limited amount of time here for my last question. What is your message?
Take your time.
Thank you for joining us, but what is your message to America here 23 years later?
Well, as always, and the reason I talk to people or anybody that will listen is to never forget. To never forget, the civilians, the cops, the firemen, anybody that got killed on 9/11, and what it's done to our country since then. It gets pushed aside. It gets all the theories and whatnot. But regardless, thousands of people died, and it should never be forgotten. I think it should be a national holiday, not to be celebrated, but to be memorialized. I just hope people, because guys like me are going to be dead sooner than later, and then nobody's really going to be remembering.
Mr. Martin, thank you so much for joining us today. God bless you.
Yeah, it was our pleasure.